For the last few days, the entire NASCAR world has been asking one question. Why didn't Shane van Gisbergen get penalized for wrecking Austin Hill at Chicagoland? And that's a fair question, but it's the wrong one. Because buried in the reporting this week is a detail that flips the whole story on its head. Before Austin Hill drove his wrecked car into the side of van Gisbergen under caution, his retaliation, Hill got on his radio and told his team, in his own words, to just wait. Just wait. And here's why that matters. Earlier this same season, NASCAR fined Ryan Preece $50,000 and docked him 25 points for exactly this kind of thing, radioing that he'd wreck someone and then doing it. Hill radioed, "Just wait," then wrecked van Gisbergen back and walked away with nothing. So the real controversy isn't why SVG got off, it's why Austin Hill did. Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. Let's be clear about what actually happened, because there were two separate incidents here, not one. First, on lap 48, van Gisbergen dove low into turn 3, made contact with the back of Hill's number 33, and spun him into the wall. That ended Hill's day. That's incident number 1, the one everyone's been debating. But incident number 2 is the one that's being overlooked. After the crash, as Hill limped his mangled car back toward the garage under caution, he found van Gisbergen on the track, drove down onto the apron, and deliberately door-slammed the side of the number 97. A clear, intentional retaliation. And the new detail that changes everything is what Hill said on his radio just before he did it. He told his team to just wait. Now, NASCAR reviewed every radio transmission from both drivers, looking for what their vice president Mike Ford literally called a smoking gun. And here's the thing, arguably they had one. It just belonged to Hill, not van Gisbergen. To understand why "just wait" is such a loaded phrase, you have to know the Ryan Preece case, because NASCAR set the precedent themselves. Earlier this year, Ryan Preece wrecked Ty Gibbs as payback, and NASCAR came down on him hard. A $50,000 fine and a 25-point penalty. Why so severe? Because before he did it, Preece said over the radio that he was going to wreck Gibbs. He announced his intent and then followed through. In NASCAR's eyes, that removed all doubt. You said you'd do it, you did it, that's a penalty. So now line the two up. Preece, I'm going to wreck him, then wrecks him. $50,000, 25 points. Hill, just wait, then door slams van Gisbergen. Nothing. Not a fine, not a point, not even a stern public warning. The only difference between the two is how explicit the radio message was. Preece spelled it out. Hill was coded. And apparently, in NASCAR's judgment, just wait left just enough ambiguity to escape. That is the double standard fans are furious about, and honestly, it's a lot more defensible to be angry about this one than about the SVG call. So here's the real insight, the thing that actually explains all of this. NASCAR is drawing an incredibly fine line, and it comes down to one principle. How clearly did you announce your intent? There are basically 3 tiers here, and this whole weekend maps onto them perfectly. Tier 1, van Gisbergen. He radioed his team that the contact was an accident and publicly insisted there was no intent. Full denial, reasonable doubt intact, no penalty. Tier 2, Austin Hill. He radioed, "Just wait." Suggestive but coded and ambiguous. And critically, NASCAR chose to classify his retaliation as, quote, emotion. Senior official Elton Sawyer literally said he would have done the same thing 30 years ago when he was a driver. So the retaliation got an emotional exemption. And Tier 3, Ryan Preece, earlier this year, who removed all ambiguity by explicitly stating his intent and got the book thrown at him. So the lesson NASCAR is quietly teaching every driver in the garage is this. You can absolutely get your payback. You can even wreck someone on purpose. Just never ever say it plainly on the radio. Keep it vague. Call it emotion. And the data alone, the throttle, the brake, the steering, even a coded "just wait" apparently won't be enough to punish you. That's a genuinely revealing standard, and it's the actual story underneath all the outrage. Not a conspiracy, not favoritism. A sport that has decided intent has to be spoken out loud to count. So what happens now? Here's what's fascinating. NASCAR didn't penalize anyone, but they also clearly aren't comfortable just letting this go. Both van Gisbergen and Hill have been summoned to the NASCAR hauler this Saturday at Echo Park Speedway in Atlanta, before Sunday's race, for a face-to-face discussion. And they're not alone. Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, who had their own tangle at Chicagoland, are getting the same treatment. Ford admitted that this creates an awkward optic. If there was really nothing wrong, why haul them in at all? His answer was that while nothing rose to a penalty, these are, in his words, hotheads they want to talk to before it boils over into something serious. And that's the part that should genuinely concern you as a fan, because this rivalry has now produced contact in 3 of the last 4 races. It goes all the way back to a clash at COTA in 2024, to Hill flipping Van Gisbergen the middle finger after SVG beat him at Sonoma and did a burnout right beside him. This is real, and it's escalating. And the next race is Atlanta, a super speedway where 40 cars run in massive packs, inches apart, at nearly 200 miles an hour. That is the single most dangerous place on the calendar for 2 drivers with a grudge and a coded "just wait" hanging in the air. NASCAR let the paperwork go this week, but that Saturday meeting tells you they know exactly how combustible this has become. The question is whether a conversation in a hauler is enough to keep it from exploding on the track. So now, I want to hear from you. Was NASCAR right to let Austin Hill's "just wait" retaliation slide as emotion? Or is that a clear double standard when Ryan Preece got fined $50,000 for the same kind of payback? And when these two share a super speedway this weekend, does the hauler meeting actually cool it down, or is the worst still coming? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.